Hey everybody! So in this video I'm going to take a little bit of time to go over the PowerPoint on useful APA info. It's a real short PowerPoint, it's only 6 slides long, but it really does contain some useful information when you're working with APA format. First thing I always tell students is, remember you're not supposed to memorize everything about APA format. You know, especially if you don't have to use it very often. Now, if you're writing research papers left and right, you're eventually going to become so familiar with certain parts of APA format that you kind of will memorize it. But if it's not something you work with on a regular basis, nobody expects you to remember every little detail about it. So, use the resources available to you when you do need some reminders about APA format. And on slide 2, I give you 2 very good websites that you can use. The first one is apa.org. What better place to go to get your questions answered than straight to the experts, right? Now remember, APA stands for American Psychological Association, and they are involved in way more than just APA style, APA format. They cover a lot of other stuff. So when you go to their website, the homepage is going to have a whole lot of stuff that you don't need. You're going to have to scroll down, and look for the section on APA style. When you find that, and I've given you a little picture of at least what it looks like now. Of course, they might change the website and switch out their images, but there should still be a designated place where you can click on to get to the section about APA format. When you click on that, it takes you to the section of their website totally devoted to APA format. There's tutorials, there's examples, there's frequently asked questions. There's so much there for you when you have questions or want to double check something or you need a reminder on anything having to do with APA format. They create it. They update it. This is their baby. So anything and everything you could possibly want to know about APA format, you can find in that section of their website, right? The other website that I've given you is to the Purdue Online Writing Lab, sometimes also referred to as the Purdue OWL, O-W-L. Now, when you go to the Purdue Online Writing Lab, the link that I've provided, the Purdue Online Writing Lab, kind of like the APA website, it covers a lot more than just APA format. It actually covers anything and everything having to do with writing in general. How to do good intros, how to do good thesis statements, how to have good body paragraphs, how to have good conclusions, how to proofread, how to copy edit, all of that stuff. It has a section on MLA format, and it has a section for APA format. If you go to that section, again, it provides you with all kinds of useful information and reminders and examples and explanations for all the elements of APA format. Title page, header, sections and subheadings, and reference page, and parenthetical citations. It even gives you lists of how to format each type of reference entry. Is it a book with 2 authors? Here's how you do it. Here's how you create a reference entry. Is it an online journal with 1 author? Here's how you do that reference entry, right? So on and so forth. Everything that you could possibly want to know about APA format, you can also find on the Purdue OWL. Okay? So, those are 2 websites that you can go to get a lot of general information and a lot of specific information about APA format. On slide 3, though, I'm pointing you towards websites specifically for how to create reference entries in APA format. What would show up on your references page, right? So the first thing that you can do is, if you're using Microsoft Word, use the references option on the top toolbar. It will help you create a reference entry for a source. Use APA's website, apa.org. Use the Purdue Online Writing Lab. You can also use Citation Machine or EasyBib, and there's probably even others out there. But those two websites in particular, and even at the top of Purdue Online Writing Lab, they have a link to one of these. And what Citation Machine and EasyBib do is you tell it what type of source you're working with. Is it a book? Is it a journal? Is it a newspaper? Blah, blah, blah. And then you will fill in the author's name, if you have one. You'll fill in the date of publication. If it was a website, you'll type in the website address, and it will give you the reference entry. And you can literally copy and paste it onto your references page. Okay? Again, you're not supposed to memorize how to create every type of reference entry for every type of source that you might use in a research paper. You just need to know that it does require a specific format, and here's where I can go to get that specific format. Use the resources available to you. Right? On slide 4, I give you some information that isn't always easy to find. Even on APA's website, even on the Purdue Online Writing Lab, it is not easy to find how to create a reference page entry with your source is a website that doesn't have an author. And at this stage in the game, I think there are credible sources on the internet that don't have an author attached to them. It used to be, when the internet was still kind of new, that it was like you had to be super careful about what sources you used from the internet. And if it didn't have an author, it was like, no, no, no. But the internet has grown by leaps and bounds. And of course, you do still have to be careful about internet sources. You do have to figure out if they are credible, if the information is reliable, if it's even real. But just because it doesn't have an author attached to it doesn't mean it's not credible, right? So there might be plenty of times where you're using information from a very well-recognized, well-respected organization's webpage, but the information does not have an author attached to it, right? I've given you the template here for how to create a reference entry for a web page that does not have an author. So instead of listing the author first, you're going to list the title of the article or the title of the section of the web page, right? So in this case, it was an article that we were looking at, and the article's title was All 33 Chile Miners Freed in Flawless Rescue. That's what we start the entry with, because there's no author. Then in parentheses, we put the date of publication. In this case, this article was published October 13th of 2010. And then we put the full URL for that article. So that's where it says retrieved from, and then you see the URL there in red. And it's not just msnbc.msn.com. It's the whole thing. You have to copy and paste what's up in the browser window, not just the web address for the site in general. You have to give the specific URL for that specific article. And that's it. And then I've even shown you how you would do an in-text citation for that source, because normally when you refer to a source in the body of your essay, you have to cite it. That's what goes in the parentheses in the paragraph. Most of the time it's an author's last name and the date of publication. But again, we don't have an author, so I've shown you what you do. That's what you put in parentheses. All 33 Chile miners, comma, 2010. Right? Use that to help you figure out how to create a reference entry and a citation for a web page that does not have an author, if you're having trouble finding out how to do that. On slide 5, I give you another useful example, which is when you're dealing with a web page that doesn't have an author or a date of publication. And that happens too. For instance, we always tell you, probably best not to use a Wikipedia entry, but you could also use like WebMD or something like that. There's not going to be an author or a date of publication. This is how you create that entry and how you do that citation. So not only might this come in handy for you guys during this course, working on your course project, but this information might come in handy for a lot of other classes. So you might actually want to like print this out or save the PowerPoint. It's only 6 slides. Save it to your computer or something, and that way you can come back to these 2 slides, and use it to your advantage, because it can be difficult sometimes to find how to do these particular types of reference entries. But I've done it here for you so that you have it as a resource to refer back to. All right. That's really just the gist of this little PowerPoint. It was just a couple of useful things that I wanted to make sure that I shared with you. If you have any questions, feel free to let me know. Otherwise, you guys are free to move on.